Today, we're going to talk about the perfect crime. I mean, a multi-million-dollar heist pulled off in broad daylight. But here's the thing. No weapons, no getaway car, not a single law was broken. And the whole thing went down at, of all places, a quiet little horse race.
So how is a legal robbery even possible, right? I mean, how do you pull off a multi-million-dollar score with everyone watching and just walk away clean? It sounds impossible. But to get how it all happened, we've got to go back.
Okay, so picture it. It's 1975. We're at Bellowstown, the small kind of sleepy racecourse just outside Dublin, Ireland. It seems like any other day, you know? The crowd's buzzing, people are placing their bets, but nobody, and I mean nobody, has any idea that this little track is about to be the stage for one of the most legendary heists in history.
All right, so let's break down the scene on the big day. And honestly, it wasn't like a heist you'd see in a movie. It was just plain weird. The key players were all there, but they weren't what you'd expect.
And this is where things get really, really strange. Get this, the only public phone at the entire racecourse, it's being used by a guy who's just sobbing his heart out. The mastermind of the whole operation, he's not in some fancy VIP box, he's hiding in a bunch of thorny bushes. And the police, well, they're just standing there totally helpless. Because as weird as all this looked, nobody was actually breaking any laws.
So, to figure out how we got to this point, you have to meet the guy in the bushes. His name was Barney Curley, and he was an absolute legend in the gambling world. This guy was so smart, so notorious, that bookies would literally panic and shut down betting the second they saw him walk onto a track.
And Barney's reputation for being, incredibly bold, that started early. The story goes, when he was only 15, his dad had this plan to drug a slow greyhound to make it win. He gave Barney the medicated meat to feed the dog, but Barney, in an amazing move, fed the meat to a different dog, bet on that one, and won. He literally kicked off his career by double-crossing his own father.
Wild.
So what was his secret? Well, in betting, you've got the favorite, the horse everyone thinks will win. The payout on that is pretty small. But then you have the long shot, the underdog. That's where the big money is, with huge odds like 20-1. A tiny bet can turn into a fortune. And Barney, he didn't just bet on long shots, he figured out how to create them. Now, fast forward to 1975, and Barney wasn't just playing for thrills anymore. He was in serious trouble. We're talking £12,000 in debt, which was a ton of money back then. He was desperate, backed into a corner. He needed one single massive win to save himself. So for him, this wasn't a game, it was survival. And that's when the light bulb went off.
Every legendary heist needs a secret weapon, right? Well, Barney's wasn't some high-tech gadget or a secret agent. Nope, it was a horse named Yellow Sam.
So Yellow Sam, and you gotta love this, he named the horse after his own father's nickname, looked awful on paper. I mean, his official record was just terrible, but that was all part of the plan. See, Barney knew Yellow Sam's secret. The horse was lightning fast, but only on firm, dry ground. So what did Barney do? He kept racing him on soft, muddy tracks where he knew the horse would lose, over and over, just to tank his reputation.
You can really see his genius strategy here. Step 1, find a horse with a secret talent. Step 2, completely destroy its public record to make the betting odds go through the roof. Step 3, find a racetrack with a fatal flaw. And Bellowstown had one. Just one single public phone line. That was the only way for the on-site bookies to communicate with the outside world. And that was the weakness he was going to exploit.
Okay, so let's get to race day. The stage is set. The horse is ready, the location is picked, all that's left is pulling it off. And this whole thing came down to a perfectly timed master plan that was all going to happen in the last 25 minutes before the race even started. All right, here's the countdown. 25 minutes to go. Barney's buddy, Benny, casually walks into that one and only phone booth. At the exact same time, 300 different people all over Ireland are standing by, ready to place bets on Yellow Sam. Meanwhile, back at the track, the bookies are totally clueless. Their one line to the outside world is about to go dead, meaning they have no way to lower the odds when the bets start pouring in. The mission? Keep Yellow Sam at those juicy 20-1 odds right up until the last second. So how did Benny tie up that critical phone line? It wasn't anything complicated. It was just a brilliant, simple piece of acting. He gets on the phone and just starts wailing, telling anyone who listened that his poor aunt is on her deathbed and he has to say his final goodbyes. It was so dramatic, so convincing, that people in line actually felt sorry for him. And all the while, he was secretly cutting off the entire racetrack's communication system.
So while Benny's putting on his little performance, Barney unleashes his agents. They flood betting shops all over the country. The bookmakers off-site see this massive rush of money on one horse and they start to panic. They're frantically trying to call the racetrack to tell them to slash the odds, but all they get is a busy signal. The system was completely paralyzed. The trap was sprung.
And then the race starts. Barney's watching the whole thing from his hiding spot in the bushes. And Yellow Sam, this horse that everyone thought was a total dud, runs the race of his life. He just flies over the hurdles, leaves the favorite completely in the dust, and wins by a comfortable 2.5 lengths. It worked. It actually worked perfectly.
Okay, let's talk about the money, because this is just incredible. Altogether, Barney's network bet about £15,000 on Yellow Sam. At 20-to-1 odds, that turned into a payout of £300,000. Now, to put that in perspective, in today's money, that's over $3.5 million. Just wow. You can imagine the bookies at the track were furious. They knew they'd been taken for a ride. And as this kind of final angry gesture, they decided to pay Barney's winnings all in £1 notes. It took 108 giant sacks to carry all that cash away. Can you even picture that?
So, as you can guess, the Yellow Sam coup instantly made Barney Curley a living legend. But here's the thing. This wasn't just a one-hit wonder. This was the moment that cemented a legacy that would follow him for the rest of his life.
And you know what? Barney never really stopped. He was still pulling off these huge betting coups well into his 70s. He had another big one in 2010, and then again in 2014. It just proved his mind was as sharp as ever. He really was a master of the game right up until he passed away in 2021. A total icon.
But here's the part of the story that most people don't know, a really interesting twist. He ended up with the nickname, the Robin Hood of racing. Why? Because even though he was a genius at beating the system for himself, he was also known for being incredibly generous. He used a huge chunk of his winnings for charity, helping people who really needed it.
And all of this leaves us with one last big question. Barney Curley never broke a single law, not one. He just understood the system better than the people who made it, and he used its loopholes to his advantage. So, what do you think? Was it a brilliant strategy, or was it a robbery? Is something really a crime if you don't actually break the law? It's definitely something to think about.